Hello and welcome to Statecraft IS and Social Perspectives Sociology in Newspaper series. In this series, we shall revise daily news articles in sociological perspective and look into relevant sociological concepts every day with the help of newspaper. In today's newspaper, we have an article in the editorial page saying decoding the political battle for Uttar Pradesh. It said the big lesson from the last 15 years is that the state of Uttar Pradesh has moved from a rigid identity politics of caste and community to a focus on identity plus governance. A large floating voter population has gradually emerged, spanning across demography, which is fiercely calculative and driven by aspirations for better life. That means here in Uttar Pradesh, a kind of social change has taken place because, in Talcott Parsons' perspective, if you see this identity politics or caste consciousness, that means uh, consciousness or excessive obsession with identity that our caste member must be in power, our caste people must be MLAs or MPs. This is all this is part of information according to Talcott Parsons, and that information is stored in cultural system. In Uttar Pradesh, in Uttar Pradesh, it was culture that caste politics or identity politics or caste consciousness was prevalent. Now that caste consciousness has seeped down into organisms, that means it is no more a part of culture in Uttar Pradesh. That is what the author has said. Now, people of Uttar Pradesh are giving priority to identity plus governance. That means energy to vote for governance or energy to go against the identity politics has emerged from organismic system to cultural system now. That means earlier it used to be an organismic system. That means energy to vote against identity politics and energy to vote for governance and development. Now that has become part of culture system in Uttar Pradesh. Hence, that is nothing but that means change in the direction of energy and information is nothing but social change according to Talcott Parsons. That social change has occurred in Uttar Pradesh, as the author has said. Further, the author says in choosing Mr. Adityanath, a relative lightweight outside of his bastion in Gorakhpur, to lead the state government, the Narendra Modi Amit Shah team made two bets, informed by the party's previous experience in the state. First, only hardline Hindutva could contain caste contradictions and lead to a durable Hindu coalition in the wake of the Ram Janmabhoomi coalition. In the wake of the Ram Janmabhoomi movement, the BJP had assembled a powerful coalition of upper castes, upwardly mobile castes such as Jats and Gurjars, and other backward classes such as Kurmis and Loths. We can see here communal politics, but we have observed functions of communalism here. Now, in our syllabus, we have a chapter called Communalism under the unit Challenges in Social Transformation. If we define communalism, W. Smith says communalism is that ideology which has emphasized as the social, political, and economic unit the group of adherents of each religion and has emphasized the distinction, even antagonism between such groups. Whereas K.N. Panikkar says communalism is a state of consciousness which primarily draws upon certain assumptions of distinct cultural identity for members professing the same religion. Here, according to K.N. Panikkar, communism need not contain essentially antagonism against the other group. Whereas for W.C. Smith, communalism is both distinction as per unique political identity and even antagonism also. Both he terms as communalism. Gyanendra Pandey says communalism is a form of colonialist knowledge which in its Indian usage means a condition of suspicion, fear, and hostility between members of different religious communities. This suspicion, fear, and hostility against Muslims in Uttar Pradesh has led to unity among Hindus themselves. That means caste divisions or caste differentiations have died down, and all caste people have united to combat other religions in Uttar Pradesh. That means here, though communalism has dysfunctions in society, here we have seen one of the functions of communalism also. In that sense, communalism in politics is functional too. Whereas caste in politics, if you see, we have a under chapter under our syllabus, we have a chapter caste system. Under that, we have Andrew Bettel's perspective on caste system. He says caste is an objective reality. He studied Sripuram village of Tanjavur district in Tamil Nadu in Trinitarian approach. That means he says source of social structure is not status alone, but class and power also. According to him, one should also study kinship, class, power along with caste. He says universal adult franchise opened up new possibilities for mobilizing electoral support on the basis of caste and thus prevented the consciousness of caste from dying down. Organized politics is retaining public consciousness of caste and is maintaining and even strengthening it. Discussions in the media create an illusion that caste is an unalterable feature of Indian society. That means he sees caste as an alien or caste as a villain in terms of politics. Andhra Patel. He says because of politics, caste consciousness is still prevalent in society. He believes. Hence, Amartya Sen relies on countervailing power. That means building of better political organization of underprivileged groups. In Uttar Pradesh, that is what has happened since decades. Now, Bahujan Samaj Party is a political organization that is representing the underprivileged groups in Uttar Pradesh. That means now in Uttar Pradesh, underprivileged groups or backward castes have better political organization to rise into power. That's why Andhra Patel sees caste system as trinity. That means hitherto underprivileged groups have used to have lower status, but because of better political organization, as Amartya Sen said, it has given them countervailing power, and they have come to power in Uttar Pradesh, and they have been to better class because of power. Economic flout also follows them, and that's why they have raised to better class also. They are owning resources, economic resources. They are owning land. That's why they have raised to better class and they have power in hand. And because of these two, their status is also improved. That's why Amartya Sen believes on countervailing power. And particularly under the topic caste and politics, Rajni Kothari says there are three stages in the progression of political modernization after independence. In the first stage, struggle for political power was limited to the entrenched and the ascendant castes. In the second stage, competitions within these castes for power led to factionalism. That means, though upper castes are wielding power, in the later stage, in that upper caste also there were divisions. That means people of those upper caste themselves divided into factions and they are fighting for power. This is what Dahrendorf also said in terms in criticism against Karl Marx class system. Karl Marx defines class system and he says the have-not class have to unite and have to emerge as class for itself and to fight the have class to come into power. Dahrendorf criticizes Karl Marx saying uh, have not class uniting into class for itself will not result ultimately into a result will not bring them ultimately into power, because this have not class eventually will divide among themselves and they will fight among themselves and compete for power. That Dahrendorf says in terms of have not class in the context of Karl Marx class struggle, but that idea is highly relevant in Rajni Kothari's statement also. Here in Rajni Kothari says, in second stage, competitions within these castes for power led to factionalism. Same kind of factionalism emerged here also. In the third stage, he says, lower castes were mobilized and are now asserting themselves in the political domain. That is what we have seen in Uttar Pradesh, because Dalits were ruling Uttar Pradesh, lower castes were mobilized and were asserting themselves in the political domain. Rajni Kothari himself says in his own words, it is not politics that gets caste ridden, it is the caste that gets politicized. According to him, politics has been able to give voice to the powerless and has uplifted them from oblivion. That means Rajni Kothari is seeing caste in politics as something positive, whereas Andhra Patel says caste in politics as something negative. Hence, both these arguments can be used as critical points in noting down both the perspectives in our answers. Andhra Patel sees caste in politics as something dysfunctional to the society, whereas Rajni Kothari sees caste in politics as something functional to the society. Keeping caste apart, if we look into the communalism, because it was religion here discussed in our article, Hindutva has been functional to the society in Uttar Pradesh, because Hindutva has blurred the caste division, caste fault lines, and has resulted in forgetting caste consciousness among the people, because now people are aware about their religion but not so much about caste. Moving on to the next article. Here it is said, Nitish says laws won't help to check population growth. Bihar CM says girls' education helped curb fertility rate in state. Now in our syllabus, we have a unit called population dynamics in paper 2. Under that, we have seen problems of overpopulation, like Uttar Pradesh is bringing new law or new population policy to cut population or to limit population to 2 per family. We can quote that under steps to curb population growth. We have also seen why Uttar Pradesh is bringing that law, because there are problems of overpopulation. That means underdevelopment. Overpopulation leads to slowing of development, but it is highly debatable because some studies were showing that development is not exactly limited to or dependent on population, because we have seen the case of China. China has more population than us, but it is highly developed. In fact, it is the second most developed in the developed country in the world. That's why some studies show that development is independent of population, but some people believe, or some ideology believes that overpopulation leads to underdevelopment. Hence, that's why Uttar Pradesh is bringing a policy to curb population growth. When similar policy is demanded in Bihar, now Bihar CM says our laws won't bring social change. He feels that girls' education brings social change or population growth, or curbs population. He says it was Eureka moment for my government when data showed that girls' education up to class 12 helped in drastically reducing fertility rate. Some people may believe that this can be done only by law, but our thinking is clear. I am not in favor of any law. He agrees that overpopulation is a major obstacle to development and social harmony. Opposition leaders also said they were also in favor of containing population growth, but not through force. That means there are two ways to bring social change. Here we have seen how to restore social change, but these are the two ways to bring social change also, if the social change is positive. One is social control, that means enforcement of law, police action, etc. Now Uttar Pradesh has done this. It has enforced law to bring social change, that means to curb population growth. But Bihar believes that it is socialization that brings social change. Socialization in this context is nothing but education to girls. By giving education to girls, we are giving them values or morals, etc., which are in line, which support the lower population. We are imbibing value which says overpopulation curbs development. That value imbibing is nothing but socialization, and that is done through education, says Nitish Kumar. Yeah, if you see education and social change also, how it will bring social change. In our social change unit, we have a topic education and social change. Under that, we see education initiates social change. It has capacity to welcome change. It ensures equality of opportunity. It is a moral agent. See, we have seen here, it is moral agent. Values like empathy and rational investigation will be imbibed through education. Because of this value of education, that means because of education being a moral agent, it helps in curbing population growth. Education has economic role. Education fights orthodoxy, promotes liberal ideas. This is why education fights orthodoxy, because child marriages or early marriages for girls is part of orthodoxy. When education is imbibed for girls, they fight against orthodoxy with the liberal ideas, and they delay their marriages, which ultimately leads to reduction in population, because later the marriages are fewer the children born out of that couple. Education is means for social mobility, and education accelerates the social change also. Hence, in this perspective, we have seen education, how education brings lower population, whereas Uttar Pradesh believes that enforcement of law brings lower population. That's all we have for today. If you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe to Statecraft IAS. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.